Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to Pravina for this wonderful opportunity. I really feel honored to speak in front of you. Our today's topic is ADHD and emotional regulation. And before we go to the topic, let me introduce myself. My name is Ajeet Kumar, and I am an inclusive educator. I'm currently based in Chennai, and I also do teacher training where I train teachers on inclusive practices and also on how to make classrooms more inclusive, how to do differentiation and accommodate the needs of all types of childrens. Yeah, so that's all about me. So if we go ahead, so this is the topic for today, ADHD and emotional regulation. And so before we start our first topic, I have a very basic question to all of you. Have you ever felt in your lifetime that you have ADHD? Maybe you would have heard it from Instagram, from YouTube, from lot of social media channels. They post about a lot of psychological disorders or neurological conditions. And when we see those videos, when we see those conditions, when we see those posts, we feel like they are talking about me or I might have the same thing. So it is very obvious to feel like that because we are all looking for answers for our situations in the life. So similarly, there are so many content on internet that talks about ADHD. Some content says that if you don't have attention, that means you have ADHD. If you cannot sit properly, that means you have ADHD. If you sit and you keep fidgeting your legs, that means you have ADHD. If you keep talking and you don't stop, that means you have ADHD. Okay, agreed. So, but coming to a conclusion with those posts alone is not right because the symptoms they are telling are just symptoms. They are not actual ADHD. Actual ADHD is much more bigger than that. Not sitting properly, talking a lot, fidgeting, extra, etc. All these things are just 5 to 10% of ADHD. Today, we are going to take a quick glance, I will say, to have a to understand a big picture of ADHD. So often in our workplace, we feel like we are not able to pay attention. Just an example, we are not able to pay attention in our workplace, and we feel like, oh, I got ADHD. No, that is not ADHD. That could come because of stress, because of sleepless nights. All those could be a reason. So it's not right to come to a conclusion so quickly. So if you want to understand what real ADHD is, you should read DSM-5. And there they have mentioned the ADHD should affect your everyday life, not just your workplace, but your family, your friend circle, your shopping. So every area should be affected with the ADHD. And when that criteria is being fulfilled, then it should be affecting for the past 6 months. And it should be visible from the age of 12. So all those criteria are mentioned in DSM-5. When you go through that, you will get a better understanding that what ADHD is and what are the correct symptoms. Today, we are going to look at one main symptom of ADHD, that is emotional regulation. And this is something which is often neglected in the society. Uh, One of the reason is because people with ADHD, they are very intelligent. They are very creative. So sometimes they are very successful in their life. So when the people see the success, they don't see the dark side of it, the struggle they go through emotions. Okay, they talk a lot, they cannot sit properly, they keep fidgeting, they keep moving around, they have high energy. Those things are okay. But the bigger problem is here emotional regulation that challenges their overall lifestyle, that challenges the way they think, that challenges the way they process the life. So we are going to talk about emotional regulation today. So as I told, it's not just one attention that is affecting in ADHD. See, attention has so many aspects: arousal, alertness, attention span, focus of attention, sustained and persistent attention. These are all aspects of attention. Now, when you say in ADHD attention is affected, that means not all the attentions are affected. Only one attention is affected in ADHD, and that is sustained and persistent attention. So if someone says that ADHD person cannot give attention, that's completely wrong because they have arousal, they have alertness, all these attentions they have, only they are challenged with sustained and persistent attention. That means focusing on a task deliberately for a expected time period. So that is affected in ADHD. Okay, when you see the age group, the sustained attentions are mentioned here. For toddler, it should be this much. So as per the age criteria, you can see for what age, what is the appropriate sustained attention. When it comes to 11 plus years, and when you go to adults, it is expected that your attention span should be at least more than 20 minutes. But for ADHD person, that is very hard, and that is affected in ADHD. Okay, now so why attention is affected in ADHD? Why they are not able to give us, sorry, I will rephrase. Why sustained attention is affected in ADHD? Because of distraction. For any human being, when they are doing a task, it will be easy for them to turn away from the distraction. But for ADHD brain, it is very hard to turn away from distraction. They might be working on the laptop, and from the window, they might see a car going, and their attention will go there because they cannot control the distraction. Goal re-engagement. They are doing something, they want to have water, they go open the fridge, take water, come back, and they forget what they are doing. That is goal re-engagement. Working memory, having a chunk of informations in their brain, holding it for a longer period of time and manipulating it. So that is affected in ADHD. Forgetfulness, they keep forgetting the things. Lack of awareness, very important. Lack of awareness means they won't know how their actions are affecting people. Maybe in the meeting they will talk a lot and they won't know that they are talking a lot. Their behavior will affect other person. Their shaking of legs, their movement, their fidgeting may affect the other person, but they will not be aware of that. Emotional dysregulation. This is what we are going to talk today. So I will come to that later. Poor mental planning. So suppose you give them a task and it requires a lot of steps, and sometimes they can plan it very well when they are hyper focused, but when they are demotivated, they and usually they are demotivated, it is very hard for them to start the task, to initiate the task. So that planning is missing in ADHD. Okay, so we'll skip this because we are only focusing on emotional regulation. Yeah. So when you see the areas the ADHD affect, like your behavior means your movement, your hyperactivity, you are not self-aware, your working memory is affected, inhibition and self-restraint. That means you know that you should control this activity, but still you are not able to control it. It just happens. You know that you are sitting in a meeting and you should not get up and walk away. You know that, but still you are not able to control it. That is inhibition. So inhibition can be physical and inhibition can be mental also. You are sitting in a meeting, you are sitting in a classroom, you are doing an activity, your mental focus should be on the activity, but there are some other thoughts coming in your brain which you want to stop, but you are not able to stop. That is inhibition. So all the areas that ADHD affects are called as executive functions. So it affects emotions, it affects attention, it affects behavior, it affects planning, it affects motivation. So all these areas, they all come in executive function. Now, if I say that you have ADHD, that means I'm telling you that your executive functions are affected. Okay. So as I said, go to DSM-5 and you will get more idea about it. Okay. Now, why do you think the emotions, the planning, or the behavior is affected in ADHD? So when I go to schools, I listen to teacher saying that he doesn't pay attention because it's a behavior problem. He doesn't pay attention because he's lazy. He doesn't pay attention because he doesn't want to. I will like to refrain from those statements because we often feel like ADHD is a behavior problem. No, ADHD is not a behavior problem. ADHD is a neurological problem. The child knows that he has to pay attention, but still he's not able to do that. And that's not the problem of behavior. That's the problem of hormones. That's the problem of how the brain is made. So ADHD brain is very different from a typical brain. Let me show you how. So you see this brain, the front area is called as prefrontal cortex. For a general human, this is developed appropriately, but for a ADHD brain, the size of prefrontal cortex is reduced. The oxygen flow in prefrontal cortex is very less compared to other people. Now, it's the same prefrontal cortex that is responsible for many things like organization, planning, and working memory, emotions. So all these areas are controlled by prefrontal cortex. Now, because prefrontal cortex is affected here, their emotions are not regulated properly. For any general human being, their emotions are in the scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They know, should I show the emotion at the scale of 5, or should I show the emotion at the scale of 2, or at the scale of 7? So they have this understanding. But for ADHD, because the prefrontal cortex is affected, they can't do the scaling. Either it will be 0, that is extremely low, or it will be 10. There is no middle scales. So, and that is the problem. It's not the problem of behavior, it's the problem of how the brain is functioning in ADHD. So next time you see a child in your classroom whose emotions are dysregulated, see from the other lens. It's not because the child is deliberately doing it, it's because the brain is structured in that way. So this is one of the reason. And this is also responsible for attention. So when the size of prefrontal cortex is less, the attention is automatically reduced. So it is all neurobiological. Student is not doing it deliberately. Next, you see, this is cerebral cortex, and this is frontal lobe, basal ganglia, and thalamus. So what happens? All the information, all the motor information comes to frontal lobe through the nervous system. From the body, from all over the body, the nervous system carries all the motor information and brings to frontal lobe. Frontal lobe passes that information to basal ganglia, and basal ganglia decides what movement to do. Whether the child should get up and walk away, whether the child should sit and fidget, or the child should sit silently without any movement. All these decisions are made by basal ganglia. And this decision is transferred to thalamus, and thalamus gives it to rest of the body. Now the problem here is, for a general human being it works perfectly, but for a person with ADHD, the basal ganglia is not working properly. That means the information is coming in the brain that, oh, so many movement is happening, things are moving away, so many senses are coming, I have to move, and all these things, information are coming in the frontal lobe. But the decision maker is basal ganglia. Basal ganglia will decide whether you should move or you should sit silently. This basal ganglia is affected in ADHD. And because it is affected in ADHD, thalamus doesn't get a proper message. And you won't understand, should I sit or should I move? So even though when you are sitting in a meeting and you should not get up, that message is not coming from basal ganglia. And because that message has not come, you will get up and you will walk away. Because that message that you should sit in the meeting is not coming from basal ganglia. In the classroom, when teacher is teaching a subject and you are getting a lot of questions, now basal ganglia is not able to tell you that is it the right time to speak or not. Now because that message has not come, you blurt out in the middle of the session, and the teacher feels like this child is disturbing my class. It's not like that. It's because the basal ganglia is affected. So basal ganglia affects the motor, either the physical motor or the oromotor. Like you want to talk, even that is affected. You talk without knowing the context that a class is going on. I should not talk now. That you don't understand at that point of time. So unwanted movements you cannot suppress because you have issues with basal ganglia. Next, ADHD brain and chemicals. Now you see, this AAC is responsible for error detection. What happens for any general human being? They know the long-term effect of their current behavior. Like suppose if I'm working in a company and I will know when to resign, when not to resign. If I resign now, how is it going to affect my course of life? All these things I will know. But a person with ADHD, their AAC is affected because AAC is responsible for error detection. Now, because ACC is affected, you cannot detect the error. You will do the action immediately without thinking of the long-term consequences. So it might look like the child is being impulsive, the person is being impulsive, but that impulse is coming because of affected ACC. So they take action without thinking the long-term consequences. They will resign the job without thinking that next month, how will I survive? They will fight with the teacher. They will argue with the teacher without knowing that this can affect my result. This can affect my profile. So all these things that happens with ADHD. Okay. And ACC is also responsible for controlling the intensity of your emotions. Now, because it is affected, your intensity is very high or very low. It is not balanced at all. And that's why people with ADHD struggle to maintain the relationship, because even though their intentions might be right, but because the way their brain is structured, they cannot express them properly. If they want to show anger, they will show a lot of anger. If they want to show love, they will show a lot of love, or they will not show at all. They will be numb. So that's because how the brain is functioning. Conflict monitoring. So that means when you are in a conflict, you know what is the appropriate amount of response, what words to use, what is the right approach. But because ACC is affected, a person with ADHD is not able to do that. Okay, so this is, so you all know about amygdala. Amygdala is called as the emotional brain that controls your emotion. Now, amygdala size is also reduced. That's why your emotion is again affected. You are very quick to anger, you are very quick to get overwhelmed, and your working memory is also very less. So, I'm telling you all this brain structure because just to make you understand that ADHD is not a problem with the behavior or laziness or intentional. It is a problem with how the brain is structured. I'm just giving you a quick summary. There are a lot more to discuss about each and every slide. Maybe when we get some other time, we will elaborate each structure in detail. This is the most important one, and that I think this is the last one. So ADHD brain and chemicals. You see, there are two chemicals that are very important for our brain. That is dopamine and neurophorin. What is the function of dopamine? Dopamine helps you to feel happy, feel pleasant. So when you do something and you feel happy, that means your dopamine has kicked you. Your dopamine is high now. It also allows you to maintain attention, maintain motivation, because suppose you are doing an activity, you are feeling happy doing that, and you want to do it more. So when you want to do more, you sustain your attention. When you want to sustain your attention, your motivation is always high. So all these things are done by dopamine. Now the problem is in ADHD brain, this dopamine is generally very less. The dopamine is less. Actually, if we go deep down, the amount of dopamine is okay only, but the transmitters are so much that they take the dopamine quickly, and the dopamine reduces because it's quickly taking it away from the nerves. So that is the issue here. So basically, you can take it in this way that dopamine is always low in the ADHD brain. Now, when the dopamine is very low, when they do a normal activity, they don't feel happy. They always want a high stimulating activity, a extremely high stimulating activity like risk taking behaviors, or something like going into conflict or debate again and again. Because when they are in argument, when they are in conflicts, when they are in debate, their brain is hyper vigilant, and in that way their dopamine goes to a top level. So suppose you do a routine work, getting up, cooking, going to office, and all these things will not give dopamine or happiness to a brain with ADHD, because uh, if this is the normal level of dopamine, that a dopamine should come here to make you feel happy. For normal human being, it comes like this. But for ADHD, the threshold is much high. So when you go here, when your dopamine goes here in the routine work, you don't feel happy. It has to go here. The dopamine has to go here. And dopamine will go there only when, for ADHD, the dopamine will go there only when you're doing a high stimulating task. The task that is not simple, that is not regular. So it is highly risky, and you enjoy doing that. And when you go to that place, this place is called as hyper focus, and from there you don't want to come down, because if ADHD brain dopamine comes down again, it is hard to go up, because they have to go a double way. For normal human being, it comes here and they feel happy, but for ADHD it has to go there. So it takes a lot of effort to reach there. So suppose if I'm playing a video game, I'm in ADHD, if I'm playing a video game and my dopamine has gone here, I want to keep playing dopamine. I want to keep playing video game because I don't want my dopamine to come down. And that's why they keep playing for longer duration. And that is called as hyper focus. So when you are interested in some activity, your dopamine goes there and you want to maintain that. So that is called, and hyperactivity, hyper focus is a strength in ADHD. Hyper focus cannot be broken very easily. Now, because ADHD brain is hyper focused sometimes, they do innovations that normal brain cannot do because they are so much into the activity. Okay, so these are some of the things. Now, neurophyrin. For any general human brain, there are a lot of information coming. Okay, and they know which information is important, and from that they will pick the important information and they will work on that, and that is done by neuropinephrine. But in ADHD, this chemical is reduced, so you see a lot of information around you and you feel like all the information is important. That's what happens with ADHD. And when ADHD person feels like all this information is important because I'm not able to pick one important, for me all the information is important. My brain is overstimulating the informations. And my brain is overstimulating the information, my brain is getting overwhelmed. And when my brain is getting overwhelmed, I get tired very easily, and sometimes it looks like laziness. It's not laziness, the brain is already filled with lot of informations. Okay, so these two chemicals are affected in ADHD. Again, I'm telling you just a glance because there is a lot more to understand this. So in the future, if you have any doubt, you can always go to DSM-5 or you can always explore on internet about ADHD. So I hope I was able to give you an idea to develop a kind of sympathy and empathy towards people with ADHD. Don't look at their anger. Don't look at their behavior. Don't look at their fidget. Don't look at their impulsiveness, because that is not the problem. The problem is in the way the brain is wired, the way the brain is structured. So you cross that level and see from the other lens, and that's how you can help a person with ADHD. Because ADHD people show such behaviors, people leave them alone, and people leave them alone, they go into toxicity, like they go into substance use, alcohol, bad habits. Why? Because people are leaving them. Why people are leaving them? Because they don't know whether it is a behavior problem or a neurological problem. And the moment you understand that it is a neurological problem, you will develop sympathy for them and you will understand them in that way. And how to deal with such people, how to help a person with ADHD, I have few strategies which maybe some other time I will talk about it. So with this, I would like to end my session. And in case if you have some questions, you can ask it now.
Sure, sir. Can you stop sharing the screen, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I have a couple of questions based on the summary of your talk, sir. I'll ask you the same. Why do you think social media tends to oversimplify neurological conditions like ADHD?
So one of the reason is there are two ways to see this. People wants the answer in simplest way. They want the simplest explanation to everything. Even today's world, when we use AI, we always keep telling AI that give me in the simplest way that I can understand. So our brain is being conditioned in a way that we want simple answers for the complicated things, but that's not always possible. There are many things in the world. For that you have to put a conscious and deliberate effort to know more about it. And in reels, in Instagram reels, maximum 30 seconds, 40 seconds, you cannot explain that. And when you cannot explain that, you give a very simple explanation. And if I am watching that reel, I will feel like this is the best explanation because I'm able to understand it very easily. But the problem there is it's a half information given in a very simplest way, and it is not detailed. That is one thing. Second thing is sorry, second thing is I have a lot of information on internet, but I will take what suits me, what makes me happy. So even for ADHD or any neurological condition, there might be a lot of information, but I will pick one that relates with my behavior. So in meeting, if I'm not able to pay attention and tomorrow I see a reel that ADHD is an issue of attention, I will pick that. And day after tomorrow it shows that ADHD is also issue with emotion, I won't pick that because I'm not relating with that, I'm relating with attention, so I will pick that alone. So these are two issues where confusion arises. I hope I was able to give a clarity on that.
Yes, sir. So what is the criteria? What is the must to be met criteria for a proper ADHD diagnosis then? Like we, as we discussed, when we watch the reels, we think that, oh, okay, this is us and all. But what is the criteria that like where we can, a person can be diagnosed as ADHD?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. So the first criteria is it should affect all the areas of your life. It should not only affect your workplace. It should affect all well, in a simplest task, in common relationships with friends, with family, everywhere that emotional dysregulation should be visible. Second, it should be affecting you for the past 6 months consistently.
Mhm.
Third, there should be no other reason to explain this. There should be no, now, it should not come with anxiety, depression, bipolar, OCD. No. If there are other explanations for this, that means it is not ADHD. And it should start from the, as per DSM-5, it should be visible from the age of 12. But from my personal experience, I have seen people less than 12 also showing the symptoms of ADHD, and even after late diagnosis also has happened for adults also the ADHD is visible. So now once you know that my all the areas of life are being affected, my relationship is being affected, workplace, common life, and my daily work is being affected, so you go to meet a psychologist, and that psychologist should be a clinical psychologist, not a counselor psychologist, not a uh, just go to a clinical psychologist, because clinical psychologists are authorized to do your assessment. Now, clinical psychologist will do a psychometric evaluation of yourself, and they will give you a report. And you have, if you have an ADHD, they will write in the report, and that's how you know that you have ADHD. It's very bad idea to do a self-diagnosis. Self-diagnosis will create a lot of problem for yourself.
Yes, sir. So why is it important to distinguish between sustained attention and other types of attention?
So, a person with ADHD, the first attention that I was talking about was arousal. Arousal means you are very calm and suddenly you saw something. Your attention has come up so suddenly. That is arousal. And the second type of attention is uh, this alertness. Like you are deliberately putting effort to understand few things.
Mhm.
That is alertness. The other type of attention is attention span. How long are you able to put the attention or sustain attention? Now, why it is very important to differentiate between all those things is when a teacher enters to a classroom. I'm taking an example of a classroom. When a teacher enters in the classroom and he teaches for 10 minutes, and the child with ADHD is able to focus only for 5 minutes, for the rest 5 minutes he's not able to focus, and the teacher immediately comes to a conclusion that his attention is affected, and they go and tell this to other teacher, the other teacher to other teacher, it goes to parents, and it creates a image about the child that child has issues with attention. But the fact is child's attention is very good. When you came to the class, the child was able to see you properly. When you opened the PPT, the child was able to scan the PPT, read the PPT, understand the PPT, process the PPT. All these are aspects of attention. The child is able to do that. Whatever you are talking, the child is able to take it in the brain and process it. And the problem is coming when you are extending it. If the child is able to do only for 5 minutes, for 5 minutes his attention is good, right? The
Right.
problem is not with child's attention. The problem is with the task. When the task becomes long, they cannot sustain their attention there. Now the problem, now again, the problem is not the attention. The problem is the way we are delivering. So what can we do? We can break down the task into small steps. Knowing that the attention is not affected entirely, only one aspect of attention, that is sustained attention, is affected. Even for a normal human being, it happens. A longer task they cannot sustain for a longer time, so it needs to be broken down. So does it mean that your attention is affected? No, your attention is not affected at all. It's just one aspect of attention is affected.
Right. So talking about adults, sir, so we are not aware of ADHD, a person who is having that when he's or she is not aware of the ADHD. How does lack of self-awareness in ADHD affect interpersonal relationships in a workplace?
Okay, so suppose it's a married couple, and husband has ADHD. ADHD is something which is not visible. We cannot see and tell that he has ADHD. You have to spend some time with the person and you have to know uh, his lifestyle. So suppose an argument happened in the house. Uh, Let me take a very simple example. Suppose the husband has arranged his book properly in a shelf. Okay, because his mind is already here and there, disstructured, not organized. And to make it look organized, he keeps his house clean, structured, so that he doesn't forget what is where. He knows this is the place where I keep my books, and this is the organizational books, pen, notebook, so that when I go to my study table, I can see everything there. Because if I don't see it there, I will forget from my brain that I need a book. So that's why they keep everything organized. And wife is cleaning the house. Wife comes and she moves away all the book, and husband gets angry. Any common husband will show an appropriate level of anger, or he will not even show an anger. He will just come, take the book, keep it again properly. But for a person with ADHD, it's a very big deal, because he organized those books not because the house should look good, not because the house should look pretty, but because his brain is affected and he wants his brain to be organized. And because in the past life his brain was not organized and he had to listen to a lot of criticism, he has that fear that I will have to hear the criticism again if my brain is not organized. So he keeps everything organized in one place so that he forgets nothing. He comes to study table and he finds everything, so he won't forget anything. He won't forget anything, and he won't get criticism. And when the wife moves away the book, all the planning that collapses and it becomes zero. And when the planning becomes zero, his anger becomes too much, because the anger is not reflecting the action of the wife. The anger is reflecting how his brain is affected now, and his anger will go to 10 suddenly. And the wife will feel like, man, this is not even a big deal, I just moved your book, why are you reacting, overreacting? The problem is not that he's overreacting. The problem is you have disorganized his brain once again. So that is one of the way you can see at it.
So how does it affect in a workplace?
In workplace, for example, we always get into meetings, and sometimes what happens, the meetings brings unnecessary elements to talk. The agenda is very simple. We are discussing about a student, how to help him in academics. Now in the meeting, the teacher starts talking about so many other things. For a neurotypical, so we use this term neurotypical, whose brain is a typical brain, neurodivergent, whose brain is not a typical brain. So ADHD is a neurodivergent brain. So it's a respectful term to use. So I will use these two terms henceforth. So if neurotypicals are sitting in the meeting and one of them is a neurodivergent, and they are talking about a lot of unnecessary stuff, the problem here is a neurodivergent brain and ADHD brain cannot sustain attention for a longer time. He has attention very less. Second, his working memory is very weak. So what happens? When you are giving an information, he has to make note of it because he will forget later on. So if you are talking about the specific topic, he will be able to remember it because the information is very less. Now, when you talk about so many unnecessary things, you bring sports day in that, you bring assembly meeting in that, his brain will get frustrated. Why? Because already my working memory is very less and I'm unable to hold information for a longer time. And I came here for this child alone. My brain is fixed on that. Now you're giving me some unnecessary information. Where will I store it? So frustration happens there. He will control. He won't show it. Second, now because you are talking a lot and you are not stopping, his sustained attention is getting affected. Now he's not able to listen to all of you. Another frustration. Third frustration that happens is ADHD brain has a structure. So when he entered the meeting, he had a structure in the brain that this is the child, we'll talk about the challenge, we'll talk about the strategies, and we'll come out. But when you are talking about school assembly in the middle of that, you are breaking the structure of his brain. Another frustration. So this frustration piles up, piles up, piles up, piles up, and at one point he will get up and walk out. and people will feel like it's rude. No, I think what he did was good because he saved your time. You are talking about unnecessary stuff. If you want to talk about assembly, have another meeting for that. If you want to talk about anything else, have a separate meeting for that, because ADHD brain likes organization. Their brain is already very disorganized. That's why they like organizing things so that their brain is not affected much. So have a separate meeting for each and everything. If you mix all of them, it will be very frustrating for them, and they will walk out, or they will start talking things like they will be very angry. They will tell you to shut up and all. So all these things will be visible in the meeting. They will start fidgeting. Now what happens, sometimes they try to mask it. Masking means they know that if I show my ADHD behavior here, people will look at me differently. They will criticize me. Oh, I have to control it. I have to look like I'm a perfect employee here. So they will sit like this, very stiff, but mentally they are not calm. Mentally, thousands of thoughts are coming in their mind, and the nerves inside the body, they're asking him to do some movement, do some movement, do some movement, but he knows, no, I will not do the movement. So you see, that builds stress and that builds anxiety. So he will start biting his nails, he will start doing small fidgeting, maybe he will bite his tongue inside the mouth. So most of the times in workplace you might not see it because they are masking it, but internally it is affecting their emotion, it is affecting their brain, and there will be one point when they will burst out and you will say that he has behavior issue, he is a bad employee. No, you have made him to reach to that point where he has to burst in that way. So am I able to give some clarity on that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, one important question, sir. What is this? How does ACC dysfunction explain impulsive decision making, like quitting a job without planning?
Yeah. So I have resigned so many jobs. So before I answer that question, I have ADHD, and I'm still being uh, I'm in the process of being diagnosed clinically. So my diagnosis is still going on, but it is very obvious that I have ADHD. Even the psychologists have told me, but they are still making my formal report. So what happens when you're in a workplace? You have a purpose, and you always want to do high stimulating job, a high stimulating activity. And when the director comes and tells you to do a work that makes no sense, you don't want to do that. Even a normal, even a neurotypical will not do that, and ADHD will never do that. So, and this happens for multiple days. It builds frustration, and in that frustration, as I said, it's not just ACC here. It is ACC here. It's also the amygdala. It's also the prefrontal cortex that decides how much emotion should you show. Now, in the workplace, when you are frustrated, amygdala will tell you, okay, show only this much level of anger, or don't show the anger, or just ignore it. So those things, amygdala, prefrontal cortex, all these things will tell you. But in ADHD, those both are affected. Now, if you are frustrated about anything in the workplace, about any activity in the workplace, if you are frustrated, there is no amygdala to tell you to control it. You will directly go to 10, and you will show your emotion at 10. You will just be very angry. You will be very impulsive. You will be like, I will leave the job now. I don't care. I will figure out something. That is one thing. Second, immediately ACC will come into the picture. Your frustration is telling you that you should resign. When you want to resign, your ACC will tell you, if you resign now, what will happen next month? What if you don't get the job? Do one thing, don't resign now. Give some interviews, get some job, get an offer letter, and then resign. That's how a normal ACC will communicate with you. But in ADHD, this ACC is affected. You are in the moment, you want to resign and you want to get away of this frustration, but your ACC is not telling you what next because it is affected. So that's how it looks in the workplace. It can look in any conflict also. When you're in a conflict with a colleague, all the parts of your brain will tell you the right tone, the right intensity, the right time, the right words, but all these things are affected in ADHD. So even though They don't mean to hurt the colleague. They don't mean to offend the colleague. It will happen automatically because of the brain structure. Okay.
Mhm. Last but not the least, sir, because
Yeah.
of the time constraint, I want to end the session with this last question. Is hyper focus a strength or a challenge for someone with ADHD?
There are two perspectives for this. One is it's a strength. Why? When you are hyper focused, you are totally into that. I told you why hyper focus happens, right? Because your dopamine goes to a level where
Right.
you don't want to bring it down because it's very hard to go there again. But for a neurotypical person, it is very easy to go up, go down, go up, go down. But for ADHD, once it goes up and it comes down, it's very hard to go up again. So they want to stay in and that happens with very rare activities. Like I like to I like to do sketching, I like to do drawing, I like to write stories, I like to write poems, I like to do designing. All these things I like a lot. So when I enter into that, I work for hours and hours and hours and hours. I will forget my food, I will forget my water, I will forget that I have to go and meet one friend, I will cancel plans because I'm in a stage of hyper focus because I know that if I go and meet my friend, that won't give me dopamine, which this designing is giving me. So now when you are in that stage of hyper focus, you will do creative things. You will be there are two aspects in the brain, one that helps you to calm down, one that keeps you always active, extra active. So when you're in the hyper focus mode, your brain is extra active. So you think things that a normal brain cannot think because you are in a very excited mode. So you do a lot of discoveries, you find new things, and you create new things that when your brain is normal, you cannot do that. So in that way, it's a strength. And you, because you are hyper focused, you finish task very quickly. You are quickly working, blah 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 blah. You are finishing all the tasks like this on one go. So this is one of the reason in the workplace ADHD thrives in their career. When you
Mhm.
give them work, when they have to work alone, teamwork, it's a gray area. But when you give them to work alone, and if they are interested in that, and when they go to hyper focus mode, they will finish it like anything. People will be shocked to see how quickly this person is finishing this activity, which is taking me 3 days. He's finishing it in one day. Why? Because he's in the hyper focus mode. He's finding creative ways to finish it. Okay, so in that way, it's a good thing because it's a strength. Now, why it is not a
Challenge.
strength? Why it is a issue? Because if I have a partner and I'm in a hyper focus mode, I cannot give attention to her. It will create ripples in my marriage. Now, another example: if I'm in school and I'm sitting in a library and I'm reading a book, and I got so hyper focused there that I forgot that I have to go for next class, and I did not go to the next class. The next teacher will scold me. So you forget your routine that you have to go for badminton class, you have to go for your lunch, you have to go for your water. So all these things you keep forgetting. So in that way, so hyper focus will be good for a person with ADHD, but it will be bad for the people around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can achieve their individual goals, but they might struggle with teamwork, something like
Yeah,
that.
because it requires a lot of relationship and emotions, which is affected in ADHD.
True, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Ajit Kumar, for that insightful and thought-provoking presentation, sir.
Thank you so
If,
much.
if not the time constraint, I would have continued my questions,
No problem.
but this is the end of the session. Anything else you want to mention before I end it?
Yeah, is it okay if I give my email ID so that people, if they want to reach out to me?
Sure, why not?
I don't have a slide for that, but I can tell it.
Okay, sure, sir.
Or yeah, it's a AJEET dot SPECIAL Ajit dot special dot ED at gmail.com. So Ajit dot special dot ED at gmail.com. So that's my email ID. In case if you have further questions and want to talk more about ADHD, we can connect on email.
Sure, sir. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'll end
Thank
the
you.
session.
Thank you.